business analysis?
Yebo.
Okay, so what is business analysis? In simple terms. Okay. In simple terms, I think business analysis is a research of identifying business needs, determining solutions to business problems. Those solutions may include software development, organizational change, and changing policy development. So yeah, so BA is also used to identify the need for change in how organizations work and to facilitate that change. So usually, what does a BA do? They conduct research and analysis in order to come up with solutions to businesses. They are like a link between the IT and the business. Usually, they bridge the gap to improve more efficiency. So, the topic for today will be conducting an organizational needs analysis. Any questions so far? Okay, Kidiboni, I see you've raised your hand. Kidiboni?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you want to say something? Hello? Okay,
Kidibone, we can't hear you from our side. I'm not sure if you wanted to ask a question.
Oh, isn't
Oh,
it?
okay. Can you hear me?
Okay, I'm going to mute Kidibone because.
okay.
All right, yeah.
6 people. 45 minutes.
Okay, it's not Kidibone. I don't know who's that.
I think it's Kinewe. Kinewe is unmuted as well.
Because okay. Okay, it was Kinewe. Okay, sharp. All right, I just muted him. All right.
Okay.
Right, sure.
I think Kidiboni still has his or her hand raised.
Kidibone, you want to say something? Unmute your mic.
Okay,
Okay, no, you can first.
I'm gonna continue.
Yeah.
So today I'll be talking about conducting an organizational needs analysis. So what is an organizational needs analysis? It's an effective way to identify skills, gaps in an organization. It often involves gathering information to identify areas which an organization can improve, how they can better their approach in the way they offer solutions. And this analysis, it has to benefit both the business and all the stakeholders, including your clients, your sponsors, your employees, and so forth. So the purpose of this unit standard is intended for people who are or seek to be specialists in information technology management. Person credited with this unit standard, they are able to analyze the current situation, determine and describe the agreed present and desired organizational objectives, define gaps, make recommendations for bridging the gap, and produce a written report of the results. So I'm gonna start with the first session, session 1, analyzing the current situation. So these are the learning outcomes. I'm not gonna go through all of them, just a few. The first one, the purpose of the analysis is established and confirmed with the stakeholders. Actions, processes, procedures are recorded to facilitate further interpretation and validation of the analysis. So yeah, these are some of the learning outcomes of this session. So first topic, determining the business analysis approach. Now, the business analysis approach, it refers to the the methods that you are going to use approaching your project, such as we have agile, we have prototype, we have waterfall module. So it also involves the techniques which are used to elicit requirements such as interview, observation, and so forth. And the second one, performing stakeholder analysis. A stakeholder analysis, it refers to doing an intensive research of who is affected by the project, how are they affected, and what the impact that the project will bring into their lives or the system that you are going to do an analysis for as a business analyst. Moving forward, do we have any questions so far? Okay, I'm gonna move forward. The third one is create a requirement communication plan. Now, a requirement, okay, to add on let me just add some few pointers on on performing stakeholders analysis. You can also do a stakeholder analysis by identifying your stakeholders, understand the key stakeholders, and investigate their roles in terms of how their roles influence the project. You know, it can be a project sponsor, it can be an end user, you know, and so forth. So yeah, that's what I wanted to add on that. Create a requirement communication plan. Now, a requirement communication plan, it's like a document that is intended for communication of requirements for the business analysis activities. It's like a plan that ensures a proper communication channels for the stakeholders. It often includes the stakeholders, the message, the schedule, the frequency, and the status. So you use this plan to communicate with the stakeholders on how the requirements are doing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And I'm gonna move to the business analysis activities. Business analysis activities, they refer to the activities that will be done by the BA for the entire project. Like you decide on should be done, feasibility study, requirements gathering, scope development, and yeah. Communicating requirements activity performance. Now, this refers to keeping the stakeholders up to date. I could say it's part of the communication plan. It's part of the communication plan where you keep on where you keep updating your stakeholders about the requirements. You don't have to tell them like which programming language. You don't have to use a technical jargon, because remember, you communicate with different stakeholders at different levels. You communicate with end users, you communicate with project sponsors, you communicate with the directors. So you don't have to use a technical jargon when it comes to this update of stakeholders. You can use, for example, you can use quantifiable metrics like your costs, your performance, how far you are with the project. You know, you can use percentages, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Any questions so far? Okay, I'm gonna continue. Now, finalizing the solution and implementation. It refers to the final business analysis duties, like to ensure the smooth transfer from proposed solution to implementation. It's like this final duties, you can use a requirement traceability matrix, and it helps you to keep track of the requirements throughout the entire project as well. So yeah, that's it. I'm gonna move on to the requirements gathering. Now, requirements gathering, they refer to the approaches based on the information that the static requirements gathering, they refer to the approaches that are based in information that may already exist within the organization, such as your document, your prototypes. This is usually used for existing processes or projects. Like, you won't have to use a static requirements gathering method when you have to implement a new project. It's used for updating an existing process or an existing project. So yeah. Okay, that was it for the first session. Now we're gonna move on to session 2. Do you have any questions for session 1? Okay, I'm gonna continue with session 2, which is determine and describe agreed short and long-term organizational
Just
objectives.
a quick one, sorry, just a quick one
Yes.
on the first session, right? Like, are we gonna get to a slide whereby you kind of break down the part of the agile, the approaches that we take when it comes to running these projects, like the agile, the waterfall? Are you gonna break it down? Because I know some of the guys here, these are the terms that they haven't heard. Unless if they're coming from the web development side of things, then they would have like heard these terms like the agile, the waterfall, these different approaches that we take when it comes to building any system.
Okay, I don't have that slide, but I can try to explain in short. Like, I don't have a slide in this document.
Okay.
Yes, should I explain it a bit? Okay, I'm gonna go in detail for the different approaches that we use for business analysis. So we have waterfall model, we have agile. So for a waterfall model, it's like it's an approach where it uses a sequential method of approaching the project. Like with a waterfall approach, you have to wait for a second phase to be done, and then you can start the new phase. Like we have the planning and analysis, and then we have the development. I mean, we have the design, and then after the design, we have the development, and then from development, we have the testing, which can be done internally as well, and then we have the implementation, and after implementation, we have the maintenance. So the agile project, this methods, they depend on the projects. Like for waterfall, I can use an example of building a house. I can't put in a roof up until a foundation and the wall is built. So that's a waterfall. It's sequential. You start with the foundation, building the walls, and then that's when you can install the roof. So with agile, it's a dynamic approach actually. So things can be done parallel. Like it's used for complex projects, like where you have to deliver. You can deliver a certain component and then deliver another one later on. So development can be done parallel with testing. So yeah, that's the difference between the agile and the waterfall.
Thank you so much for that, because these are the things that we're going to see, especially for the guys that are doing systems development, right? Like there's going to
Yes.
be like a project that comes in, and then the client says, okay, especially for the waterfall, as she said, right? These are for the projects that take longer for us to complete, right? So a client brings in a bigger project, and then now we have to say, okay, we'll sit down and then work on that project. Again, we cannot move to the next step of the project without completing the first one. She gave a good example of a house, right? I can start with the roof without like starting with the foundation. So that's the waterfall. And then the HR, she explained it very well, because there are some projects whereby the client will want like pieces of code, so that to be put together on the integrated on the entire code, so we can give them piece by piece, right? That is agile. And then waterfall, we have to wait for one phase to be finished in order for you to move to another phase. And then when it comes to system development, if we follow the waterfall, some of the things become difficult for us to move back to once we have passed that stage, right? So we have to follow a certain step, like sequential, right? Thank you for that, because it's really important for people that are going to be doing web development. So this is the part whereby we are deciding based on the project that the client has given us to say, okay, this is the project that we have, and then we look at the approach which we're going to take. So these are approaches that you can take when it comes to building any system. Thank you so much for that part.
Okay. Is that all for session one?
Yeah, on my side, I think that's the part that I wanted emphasis on.
Okay. So I'm gonna move on to session two. So I'm just gonna go through one learning outcome from this three learning outcomes. The objectives are recorded and clearly to facilitate further interpretation. Okay, I'm just gonna get straight into it. So 2.1, the role and importance of objectives are described within the context of analysis, taking cognizance of their value to the organization. Now, this section, it refers to employees having connection to the organization's goals and objectives. Now, as a business analysis, let's say maybe you notice that employees, their performance is very poor, and you want to align their goals to the organization's goals. So this will help the organization to align, to align their objectives and goals with the employees. It will also help employees to develop a sense of loyalty and connection towards the organization. And this will also make them align their long-term goals and of the organization, and they will be devoted to their work, and it will drive the organization to accomplish future goals. The advantages of this is that it will have increased operating margins of the organizations. Like if the work environment is a happy environment, obviously there will be increased operating margins, and there will be a quicker execution of the company strategy. And one last thing is that they will have a reduced employee turnover. Like it's quite a loss when a company has an employees that comes and goes, they don't become loyal to the company. It's like you invest on an employee and then the next thing they move on to another organization. It's quite a loss, because you will have to train new employees again, And yeah, it's quite a loss of investment. So it's a good thing to have a positive environment in an organization. So yeah, I'm gonna move on to the next one. The objectives are recorded clearly to facilitate further interpretation. Are you guys familiar with the SMART goals? Okay, I'm assuming that no. Now, SMART goals have been found to have a very effective method of
Just a quick one. If the thing with this group, right? If you want an answer from them, just call them out by their name. If you just ask a question, nobody will respond. If you want an answer, just look at the names on the side, call out that person, and then they'll give you an answer.
Okay, noted.
So,
Thank you. Okay, now SMART goals have been found to have a very effective method of motivating employees to perform at peak levels. You can use the SMART method to motivate employees to have a connection with your organization. Now, SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. Now, by specific, we mean that a clear definition of goals, of objectives. It includes who, when, what, which, where, why, and how. It's like it entails the purpose of objectives, who should be involved, what needs to be accomplished, how is it going to be done, which resources should be involved, and where should it take place. Measurable. It has to do with being able to measure the progress of your goal. One could set dates of completion of the task, and every day you could record every task you have performed. On daily or weekly basis, you can review your progress by checking the number of tasks completed if they are aligned to the objectives and target dates. And attainable, it refers to the goals being realistic. You can set goals that are not too broad for the team and that will be doing the project. For example, developing an online voting system in a day. Obviously, that's not unattainable. You can't develop a voting system in a day. Well, you can, depending on how, if you have done the analysis for it and the planning, you can develop. And if you have analyzed and identify all the requirements, you can, depending on the size. But for someone who's new to development and you expect them to develop a voting system, an online voting system in a day, obviously that's not realistic. Okay, relevant, it refers to goals the goals, they should be relevant and aligned to the organization's vision, but mostly the project. If you are setting objectives for an IT department, it should only entail the IT related work, not any department like HR or marketing. Timely. Now, timely, it refers to objectives, like they should have a duration. Otherwise, the project that you're working on might be delayed. Like you should have a let's say you could set your project to 3 months or 4 months. Yeah, it refers to your project having a duration. Okay, any questions for session 2? Okay, I'm gonna move on to session 3, which is defining the gap and making recommendations for bridging the gap. Okay, some of the learning outcomes. The gap is determined using an acceptable analysis technique appropriate to the context. Recommendation of methods and scenarios for closing the gap are verified as reasonable, effective, and comprehensive. Now, what is a gap? Kabelo, how would you define a gap? Okay, Zimbili, how would you define a gap? Okay, in simple terms.
Zimbili, he has an issue with his phone. He said like his phone, the mic or something is wrong there, so he might not be able to answer. Just pick anyone from the group again. They will definitely answer.
Okay, Nontobego, how would you define a gap? Like in simple terms. It doesn't have to be technical. Okay, I'm gonna move on. So I think in simple terms. Okay, Tisetso.
Spotting an opportunity.
Tisetso, I see you are raising your hand. You wanna say something?
Yeah, I was answering define the gap
Okay.
as spotting an opportunity.
It's like supporting an opportunity.
Spotting.
Or it's like spotting an opportunity.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. That's very good. Thank you. Anyone else? Ngobile, I see you raising your hand as well. I see Ngobile and who else? Kidiboni?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Ngobile.
I think with the gap, I think it's when maybe the organization estimates the current objectives with the long-term objective. So apparently, I think they just I think they estimating their current performance in an organization compared to actually the long-term objectives of the organization. How I yeah.
Yes, that is correct. That is good. Thank you, Ngobile. Okay, as Ngobile and I think Ngobile and the other lady that spoke before, I forgot her name. A gap, it refers to the difference between the current situation and the short and long term objectives of the organization. It's like is the difference between the objectives and the current progress of meeting those objectives. It also it's a process that allows the organization to determine how best to achieve their business goals. It compares the current state and the future state, which highlights shortcomings and opportunities for improvement. Now, okay, you can perform, okay, we have different types of gaps, which is the market usage and the existing usage. So the existing usage, it refers to, oh, we have a product gap as well. So existing usage refers to existing consumer usage makes up to the total current market from which the market shares are calculated. It usually derives from a marketing research, most accurately from panel research, but also from ad hoc work. Sometimes it may be available from figures that governments or industries have collected. However, these are often based on categories that make bureaucratic sense but are less helpful terms. So we have the product gap as well. It's also called the segment or position gap. So yeah, the gap analysis to develop a better process. So you can conduct a gap analysis by looking at the future state, current situation, and the next action. Like in this example, it seems it's a call center example actually. the future state, they want to answer 90% of the calls within 2 minutes. So the current state is that approximately 50% of calls are answered within 2 minutes. Now, as a BA, you have to analyze and identify what actions or proposal that can be done in order to meet the future state of answering 90% of calls within 2 minutes. That is called bridging the gap. So in this example, you can develop a call volume, a reporting queue modeling system to ensure that there is enough staff during busy periods. You can also recruit any additional people needed, develop a system that allows callers to book a call back during busy periods. So yeah, that's all about gap analysis. Any questions? Okay, I'm gonna move along to session 4.
Ivan's hand was up. He raised his hand. I'm not sure if he has any contribution or he wanted to ask something. So we didn't give him a chance to say what he wanted to say. Evans, you want to say something?
No, I wanted to answer the question, but I'm covered.
Oh, sorry, I missed you there.
Okay, cool. Kucho, what have you learned so far on this module? Kucho, what have you learned on this session that we just completed now? What have you learned so far? Kidibone?
Yes,
Kidibone,
Malusi,
what have you
can you
learned
hear
so
me?
far? Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I've learned about the business analysis and how an organization is able to communicate with stakeholders, and I've learned about the waterfall modules and the different and business analysis that when the waterfall is used essentially like when you're building a house, you start by you start by building a foundation, then you come with other at different steps. Then I also learned about the the smart goals, like having smart goals within an organization, like being specific, having measurable goals, attainable goals, setting relevant and timely goals. Yeah, I think that's it. Lucy?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, yeah. I've learned about smart goals. I've learned about the business analysis, and I've learned about the different approaches on business analysis. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Mpho, over to you.
Okay, I'm gonna move on to session 4. Okay, these are some of the things that we have covered in gap analysis. So I'm gonna move on to session 4, which is producing a written report of the results. Now, as a business analyst, one of the skills that is very important is having written and oral communication skills, because you will be communicating with people a lot, attending different meetings day to day. So yeah, you need to have good communication skills and your energy levels up to date at times. So now this is one of the example for written communication, which is producing a written report. Now a written report, can you guys still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Now a written report is like a document that presents information in an organized format for a specific audience and purpose, because you will be writing different reports for different stakeholders. Some stakeholders, they want to know how the financial side of the project is doing. Some stakeholders would like to know how the technical side of the project is doing. So now your report usually will include a title page, which refers to like the name of your report, the author and the group number, the course, and the abstract. Your report should also have an abstract. An abstract is like a summary of an idea, what you will be investigating or what you have analyzed. It emphasizes the purpose of the report. The report should also have an introduction, which is like a clear, brief summary of what should reflect the background of information. It's like it highlights the major points of what will be covered in the report. Number 3, the materials and methods. They refer to the description process. Is like the body of your. It's part of the body of your report. It's a description of processes, procedures, approaches, materials that were used to reach the end results of your report. So it should entail a precise presentation and analysis of how the measurements were reached. Okay, and number 4, we have the results. So the result is like a summary of your final findings. They include diagrams, drawing, and graphs, etc. And number 5, we have discussion. A discussion is like an interpretation of the final finding of the full details. It's like an evaluation of the results and how it should go. It also includes your recommendations as well. And number 5, we have conclusions. The conclusion is a summary of the major central points only made in the discussion. And references, we have acknowledgement of, it's like you acknowledging the sources you have used to assist you or reach to the results, like your peers, if there are any books that you used to write your report, any web pages that you used to write your report. And number 8, we have, okay, these are just additional remarks. We have writing style, which refers to the style in which you choose to write a report. That should be consistent in terms of font, grammar, spacing, page numbers, etc. And we have figures, which are visual presentations as well. They are visual presentations of your findings, like your graphs and drawings. Like you should label them if you're gonna include your figures in your report. Like you should label them accordingly, and the labeling should also be consistent. And lastly, we have tables, which the tables should also be well numbered consecutively with captions describing the content. The information in the table should be clear and visible as well. And if you're going to include abbreviations in your report, you should also include a table that describes those abbreviations as well. Now, most of the companies, they have a template for their report or the writing their documents. So mostly you'll just occupy those templates with information with your findings. So yeah, this is the end of session 4 and the end of this content about BA for now. So any questions so far? Idiboni? I see you've raised your hand. You can continue.
But can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
No, I wanted to ask that. Can you please probably maybe if you can explain further with the report, or can you please like share the learner guides, because there's some question in the assessment where they ask us about how to write a report. So I wanted to get a brief on that. If you can maybe share the information or explain further. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, I can share the information and explain in detail as well. I could try, or I can try to go slower. Like
So
let's.
so you know what they have, right? Like they have an assignment where they have to report about something else, but it must be like a formal report. So I think she's looking for a structure of how
Oh,
to, yeah, to
okay,
report formal report. Yeah.
okay. In
Yes,
that
really,
case, I will share this user guide then. Will that
okay,
do for you?
yes, can you please share it via the group?
Okay. Okay. Share it as in like now.
After the session, yeah, please, can you share it after the session?
Okay, I'm not in this group, so
Oh,
No,
because the
it's fine.
explanation.
I'll send it on the group. So Mpho has sent me the slide, so I can just drop it in the group. It's fine. Then we have.
Oh,
I'll just have
okay.
to check. Yeah, I'll drop it
Okay,
in the group and then go through it. Yeah.
okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
Okay, and
okay.
also the recording. You can find the recording of this session like on the YouTube. I'll send the link, and then if you wanna go through this, and then also maybe understand fully what Mpho was going through, and then yeah, okay, I will upload everything on YouTube, and then send you the link, and then you go through the entire class.
Okay. I have some few questions for you guys. I don't know if you'll be able to answer.
Sandile has a question there.
Mr. Moyo.
Okay,
Mr. Moyo.
Sandile.
Yeah, Sandile.
I wanted to ask Melusi if those slides that have the motherboard and on what will you share it in the group?
Okay, all the material that we have covered, I'll say today on the group.
Okay.
Cool.
Good.
Okay, is that all?
Yeah, I think over to Mpho, yeah.
Okay, I just have some. I see Sandy. Oh, Sandile, you still have your hand raised, or
Yeah, it's lowered.
okay. So I have just some few questions. So, based on today's report, based on today's sessions, I'm just gonna pick some few questions from here. Okay, I'm just gonna pick anyone. Okay, somebody has their mic unmuted. Zimbili? I think it's Zimbili. Okay, Mfusi, can you please define SMART goals or objectives? Hello, Mfusi? Okay, or who else? Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, what is the question? Sorry.
Can you please describe the SMART goals or objectives? This abbreviation, SMART.
Oh, okay. I heard you said specific stands for S, and then M, measurable, A, attainable, R, relevant,
yes,
and T for time bound.
Yes, that's correct. Thank you.
And just about the turnover, I thought turnovers had to do with how much the company makes, but it turns out it's different according to business analysis. Please elaborate on that.
Okay, turnover. Okay, reduced employee turnover. In this case, it's a reduced employee turnover, not the overall company's profit turnover. So this turnover has to do with employees like quitting their job or in a company. If you have a lot of employees who don't stay for long in your organization, it refers to that. So if you have a higher employee turnover, it means your employees are quitting their jobs, so you have lots of absenteeism in your work. But if you have a lower employee turnover, it means your employees are there at your workplace. They are busy working. Like a lot of time, you don't experience absenteeism. It's like the opposite of what I've just said. You don't experience absenteeism, resignations, employees fleeing to other organizations. So if you have a lower employee turnover, obviously they will increase your margins. Employee will feel connected to their work, so which will be good for the organization as well. I don't know if I've answered you.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Anyone?
Just for me to add on that part of the turnover, the employees leaving the companies, and then most of the time, I think you've explained that part. Like, if people don't feel like they belong to that company, no one wants to stay in a company that they feel like they're not part of it. Like, so, like, it's maybe the business culture or the business design. Like, it doesn't make the employees feel like they are part of that team. So most people, you just like the company will develop them in terms of like maybe training them in different fields. After that, you find like the person leaves because the person, they don't feel like they are part of the company, they don't belong there, so they like they leave from one company to another company, or they just don't stay in your company just because of the way we treat them. Thank you so much for covering that part. Like, we can be able to retain or allow people to stay longer in our companies just because of the culture that we have in our organization. People belong, are part of that organization. It's not just like the organization is doing this for themselves. Also, the employees and the employees are benefiting from this. So it's very important. Thank you for that part.
Okay. I'm gonna move to the last quiz. So I'm gonna pick anyone as well. Okay, I'm gonna pick the last one. In your own words, what is the purpose of business analysis in an organization? So, Lindoguhle Ndlela, or anyone that can answer. What is the purpose of business analysis in an organization? Okay, I see Mfusi, you have your hand raised.
I'd like to think it's the foundation. You can't have a business if you don't have a business analysis. It's like your thought analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your your threats. Yes, so that's the foundation of the business. In order for you to have a successful business, you have to do a business analysis first.
Yes, that's correct. I see Kiriboni, you also have your hand raised.
Oh, yes. Can I add on what the lady has just said, that a business analysis, to my understanding, I could say that is a research of identifying business needs for a change on how an organization works,
Yes, that is correct.
and conducting a research and analysis with regards to a link between an IT and a business analysis. I'm just trying. I'm not like
No,
sure.
you're heading in the right direction. That's correct. I see
Okay.
Ngobile, you wanna give it a try as well?
Yeah, I think with business analysis is to actually analyze the business requirements, create proper documentation to various stakeholders in order to understand the business needs, the structure, the policies and operations of the organization. So that's how I think. Yeah.
Yes, that is correct. It's like BA, it's like the foundation of every project. You have to analyze everything. Even it goes further to even analyzing the risk of every requirement. Like let's say you are making changes to an existing system, so you'll still have to identify the risks. Watch sorry. Okay. What if you are improving an existing system, you have to analyze the risks as well. What systems, what business processes will be affected by that? So yeah, I think that's pretty much it from me, guys. I don't know if you have any questions.
Mobile's hand was just up now. Mobile, you want to say something?
No, no. Fine.
All right. Thank you. If there are no any other questions, okay, there's no Tobago. Okay, sorry, no Tobago. No Tobago, your hand is up. Go ahead. No Tobago, you want to ask a question? All right. Or maybe your mic is on mute. Or no Tobago, you want to say something? Kindly unmute your mic. All right.
Okay, that's it from me, guys. Over to you, Melusi. If you don't have any questions for me, so I'll hand over to Melusi.
Okay, if there are no any other questions, thank you so much, Paul. For okay, there's Kidibone there. Kidibone, can go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to ask the question about the agile. Is it the agile or the agile? I don't understand that concept of agile or yeah, and waterfall.
Okay, okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. So agile, waterfall model, it refers to a sequential approach to a project. Like in order for you to select the approach of a project, you'll have to know how the requirements are first. What is it that needs to be done? For example, as I gave an example of a house for waterfall example, it's like you follow a certain sequence. You have to start with planning and then designing the house and then developing it based on the design. And another thing as well, you have to test it and maintain it as well. Like for example, you have to, in order for you to build a house, you have to start with a foundation and then the wall and then the roof. That's like a sequential, like you follow a certain sequence. You can't build a roof without you building a foundation. You can't build a wall without you building a foundation. So it follows a certain sequence. Now agile, mostly it's used with complex dynamic projects whereby a project is very huge. Okay, let me give an example. For an example, you have to let me think of an IT project. For an example, you're changing the bank system. Like let's say Capitec in the beginning, they were using uh how do you put it, a paper-based system to record their deposits and so forth and whatsoever. And they are approaching this project. They want to go digital. So they are approaching this project agile. Firstly, maybe they will test the user login component if it's working, and then the next thing they develop the deposit deposit component, if it's working, if it's reflecting to the user's account. And yeah, it's like agile, you can deliver component by component. You don't have to deliver the whole thing at once. I don't know if I've answered you. Or you
Yes,
still,
you have answered. You have answered me. Thank you.
okay.
Okay, so I got a slide here for the software development methods, right? Like, so as she has said, right, like these are the approaches. First, we wait for the clients to give us the requirements, right? And says, okay, I want you guys to build a system that will do 1, 2, 3, right? And then the minute we have like the requirements, we exactly know what needs to be done based on from what the client have said to us. So we sit down as the web dev team, right, the development team, and then we say, okay, based on these requirements, which approach are we going to use in terms of like, which method are we going to use in terms of like building this system, right? So whatever we're doing is based on what? On the client's requirements. And said, okay, if the client said they require a system like this, how long is it going to take us to build this system? And then the number of people that we have in our department, and then we say, okay, fine. Now we have these 3 methods. Okay, this is the slides for CISP, right, or CSP, Community Advanced Security Practitioner. So they on their side they go with the 3 methods, right? Which was the first one is the waterfall phases of a life cycle cascade, right? Next phase starts only if previous phase is ended. So that's what Mpho has been explaining, right? That we have to work on the first phase. Once we're done with the first phase, then we can move on to the second phase, right? And then this waterfall approach or method is suitable for projects without significant time constraints. These are big projects, right? That we know, okay, we cannot do them within a month, we cannot do them within 2 months. Some of the projects in web development, it can take us the entire year still working on one project. So the approach that we usually take when a project like that, a bigger project, we always go for waterfall because of the size of the project, right? And then issues found earlier are easier to fix. So these are the advantages of a waterfall, right? Issues that are found on phase 1, we can be able to fix those issues on phase 1, and then we move to another phase. Once we're done with that, we work on phase 2. Once we're done phase 2, we move to phase 3, right? And then can't adequately address changing security requirements. So the disadvantage will be that, let's say, for example, we have picked up a vulnerability or a problem that we might happen to our previous code. Now it becomes difficult for us to go back to that code and whatever to fix that, right? Because we have to do this thing step by step. So these are the methods or the approaches that we can take as a web development team, right? And then the agile focuses on adaptive measures, right? So we said it's dynamic, right? The client wants a piece of code, the client wants something, we are able to deliver that time by the time the client requests that, or we are able to commit a code by the time the client wants it because it's agile, right? So short, rapid iterations in development, so we can make some changes on our code as we go on when trying to develop this specific system, right? And then useful in complex, unpredictable systems, right? So we can use agile for complex systems, and then unpredictable systems, we can go for agile. Difficult to keep up with security of evolving code, right? The problem, one thing that I don't like about agile, for me, I'm a cybersecurity analyst, right? Like on my side, when it comes to agile, most of the times we end up forgetting about security, right? Security is one of the things that must be an inbuilt thing. When we write a code, we must first think about security. How secure the code that we're writing is? How is the system going to be secure? So if the problem with agile is that they're requesting for the piece of code at that time, right? They want it there and there, and then we just give it to them. In the end, we forget about security. Then when the system is up and running, we start maybe noticing a certain flops or mistakes from that specific system. But agile is good for a project that needs to be done now, right? The client wants it now, then we can do agile, right? Most companies going for agile these days, unless if it's a bigger project. And then spiral is just a combination of the two. So it's a combined approach of the agile and the waterfall. Development is modified, but follows overall end to beginning structure, right? Useful for large and complex projects. You must incorporate security from the very beginning of the life cycle. This is what us cybersecurity people talk about every time when we're building any system, right? So we say security must be an inbuilt thing, right? We start with security from the beginning of the project. It mustn't be an afterthought. Okay, now the code, we're done with the code. It's on GitHub now, right? So we want to upload the code. No, you upload or we start with security. By the time we start thinking of designing or building this system, we start with the security from the start go. All right, so that is Spiral, Agile, and then Waterfall. I'm not sure if, and then, okay, we're gonna go through these slides. There is so much to cover when it comes to business analysis. Okay, there's also this process called the SDLC, right? Software Development Lifecycle. This is the part, especially for people that are doing web development. So we're gonna go through all of this information. All right, today's Friday, right? We're not going to go for 2 hours. I think on my side, I'm done. Anyone with any questions? Anyone with a question? Wanna ask something? Wanna add? Okay, the other one more thing, right? If you look at business analysis, like business analysis is most good for people who wants to be managers, right? So if you look at system support, technical support, these are for people that want to be hands-on, right? Business analysis, if you want to be a manager, if you want to manage projects, technical projects, any project in the IT space, then you go for business analysis. Especially the ladies, I've seen most ladies, like you find that they don't want to do anything that is to do with technical or maybe being hands-on and stuff like that. They prefer to go for business analysis, of which if you fully understand, let's say first you fully understand the tech support, the hardware, the software, how to build a system, all of those things, you become a best business analyst if you understand how those things work. So that's why we brought in Paul to share the side of the business analysis so you can fully understand what IT is all about. And then some of you might be able, you might want to pursue business analysis, right? Say, okay, I don't want to be hands-on. I don't want anything that is to do with technical support, but I want to do business analysis. Then you can then go ahead and do that. So IT is not all about you being hands-on, maybe fixing a computer and things like that. No, it is broad. Or developing. IT is broad. So Mpho, thank you so much for today's session. I think we're gonna call you again for another session. I don't know when, but me and you will talk, right, and then see what we can deliver, what we can share to the guys, with the guys.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you guys. Just drop in your name and surname and the group that you are in on the comments there. All right, thank you.
Okay, cheers. Have a good Friday.
You too have a great one.